good kid in high school. I was in student government, I was in the National Honor Society, and all that shit. So I was a little confused when, at the end of my sophomore year, right before lunch, I got called down to the principal's office. Now, when I got down there, the secretary was smiling at me, so I was like, all right, nothing bad happened, no one died, my car didn't get towed, like, everything's okay. So I was like, what's up? And the secretary goes, you have a delivery. And she pointed to her left, where sitting on the counter was a little glass vase with 6 gorgeous white roses in it. And I was like, who sent them? And she goes, read the card. And I could tell by the smirk on her face that the nosy bitch already read the card herself. But I dug the card out, and written in perfect florist handwriting, it said, to Rati, from your secret admirer. And I was like, oh my God, I've never had a secret admirer before. I've never had any sort of admirer before. Now, until that point in time, I had never had a boyfriend or a reciprocated crush or even a real kiss that didn't involve a bottle or a closet. And the only person who had ever given me flowers was my mom after ballet recitals, but she would give me the flowers and then immediately take them back, put them in a vase, and use them as a living room centerpiece. So I had never been the subject of such a sweet, loving, selfless gesture. So my heart just like flew out of my chest with the thought that someone out there loved me and loved me so much that they would send me roses at school for everyone to see. Now, unfortunately, I had to leave the roses in the office because I was one of those students that was constantly over-prepared for class, so I always had like twice as many books in my arms as necessary. So as much as I wanted to like flaunt the roses all over school, I couldn't. But as soon as I got to my lunch table, I told my friends all about the roses. And I was like bragging and bragging and bragging that I had a secret admirer. And then together we tried to figure out who the secret admirer was. Maybe it was Adam, my date from the Sadie Hawkins dance, or maybe it was one of the boys I met at science camp last summer, or maybe it was Joe Alverson. So, Joe was the student body president, soon to be valedictorian, and on all of the academic teams with me. He was cute and smart and talked to me voluntarily. I was completely obsessed with him. For about a week, there was this rumor going around school that he was going to ask me to the prom, but he ended up going with his best friend's girlfriend's best friend instead. So I thought that maybe this was like Joe's way of apologizing for going to the prom with Aaron fucking Steen instead of me. So I sat there at lunch, daydreaming about how I was going to put the roses next to my bed, next to a picture of Joe, my new boyfriend. But then my best friend chimed in with her theory. You know what? I bet the roses are from Brendan, Dan, and Paul. Now, okay. I know that getting sent white roses from not one, but 3 boys sounds like the freaking dream, but not when it's Brendan, Dan, and Paul. These are the boys who, ever since my parents got me a new car for my 16th birthday, were jealous and on a mission to trash it. They would take a bunch of McDonald's wrappers and various fast food trash and throw it all over the top of the car. One time they took a bunch of pads and tampons, dipped them in ketchup, and then plastered them around my doors. Oh. Yeah, it was really gross. But their winning prank was when they put compost in the front grill so that every time I turned on my air conditioner, the entire car would reek like farm animals. So my friend's theory was that since the boys couldn't top that prank, that they had moved on to more advanced ways of torturing me, switching from automobile warfare to psychological warfare. She further pointed out that I didn't get a dozen red roses, I got a half dozen white roses. So I was like, shit, her theory has way more logic and evidence to it than my Joe Alverson theory. So just in case she was right, just in case this whole thing was just a mean prank, I decided that for the rest of the afternoon, I wasn't going to tell anyone else about the white roses. But then came 7th period, chemistry 2, the one class I had with Joe. So I was like, I'm going to test him. So I started telling my lab partners about the white roses, and not very quietly. So then the whole class started talking about it. Even the teacher was like, oh, Rati, that seems like a very sweet gesture. But throughout the whole class, as everyone was talking about it, Joe was dead silent. And to me, that meant that he did send me the roses. I mean, if he was comfortable talking about them in public, he would have just put his name on the damn card. So I skipped out of class, totally convinced that Joe sent me the roses. And as I walked out of the office with my white roses in hand, this giant grin on my face that said to the world, yeah, I'm loved. What? Brendan, Dan, and Paul walked by me, and they were snickering. And they go, nice roses, Rati. I was like, fuck, maybe it wasn't Joe, maybe it was them. I just didn't know what to believe anymore. Never in my entire life did I think that having a secret admirer would be so freaking stressful. I thought this was supposed to be fun. So I just go home and I'm like giving myself a panic attack trying to figure out who the fuck would torture me with such a horrible, horrible thing. And my mom gets home from work and she looks at me and she looks at the roses and she goes, oh good, you got the flowers I sent you. And she takes the white roses in the little glass vase and sets them on the living room table. Thank you.